My name is Amr Kotb, and I am the Advocacy Manager at the Tahrir Institute for Middle East Policy.
And my name is Leila Kabalan, and I'm the Program Coordinator for the Social Justice Program at the Issam Institute.
Well, I think what we discovered was that the alliance in Egypt, leading up to the events of the revolution, there was a lot of collaboration happening regularly, certainly in the 10 years leading up to it. And this helped to establish friendships and informal connections, which led to substantive cooperation on the ground. Tunisia was different because the Islamists in Tunisia were not really in the picture leading up to the revolution and during the revolution itself. So that was more of a formal cooperation which came after the fall of Ben Ali.
It's very important to note that the Muslim Brotherhood had really a very substantial and strong socio-political kind of roots in the Egyptian society. They worked within red lines that were very much like dictatorship approved, but they knew their powers were much bigger than that. So a lot of research that we've done, we show that the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, chose not to field so many candidates instead of chose to field, for example, 15 instead of 30 candidates because they didn't want to spook the regime. On the other hand, Ennahda and the Tunisian, they really didn't garner that socio-political identity. Tunisia was much more secular. So the way that the political Islamists had to play it, they had to kind of moderate a little bit more. So when the regimes fell, they were on a different, really on much different tracks.
Yeah.
The Brotherhood was already popular, and Nahda had to kind of gain a lot of those popularity and had to do that by appeasing to the environment it was in.
Okay, great.
Right. Thank you.
Would you still want to answer that question on youth? Or
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
give it
try.
a stab.
Yeah.
I know it's like, change it there.
Yeah.
You start this one.
Okay.
I'll see if I can add anything.
So how would you compare the role of youth movements in the revolutions of each of the countries, Tunisia and Egypt?
Yeah, I think a little bit of the youth issue, I mean, the youth can be a little bit of an issue because the definition of youth and how it's been used in the mainstream media is really, there's a problem, I would say. It's a little bit of problematic because you see a lot of the April 6 movement, for example, in Egypt. I would shy away from calling them just youth.
Yeah.
Ahmed Maher, currently he's in prison. I would say he's 35, 36.
Yeah.
He's been active for the past 10 years. I would be careful with calling him youth. But if we want to go with the whole youth identity of the Arab world, etc., I would say that in the framework, if we take it back to the political Islam movement, for example, the Muslim Brotherhood youth sector was much more, I would say, keen on changing.
Certainly.
Was much more active in political student body elections, had a little bit more of a ability or flexibility to work with the secularists, maybe because they didn't have the experience or the contentious politics that went through the 70s between the Islamists and the secularists. So in that sense, a lot of the youth was the right kind of atmosphere to do the revolution. But then afterwards, I would say that the youth didn't have any political experience, and then they had to go back to the binary.
I think in both countries you kind of saw, again, entering this world where we're saying that youth applies to somebody who could be 40 years old, which again is problematic. We were in a situation where the youth were sort of the self-starters of the movement, and they did lose that to sort of the higher powers, which tended to be older. You look at Tunisia, we posit in our paper that transition went much better, speaking relatively, than the Egyptian one did. But, Issam is, how old is he?
He's like 88.
88. He's an old school guy. All the old school guys, kind of took over, and we're just now seeing riots of youth who are unemployed. So it kind of goes to show you, the trajectory of their involvement from the beginning until now.
Yeah.